Tyler Cowen needs no introduction. Tyler Cowen, welcome.
Parker, thank you for having me on.
If there were 10 Tyler Cowens, how would they spend their time differently than you spend your time now? How would your production function of 10 Tyler Cowens be different?
Maybe they'd be in Girardian competition with each other, and only the strongest would emerge alive because they'd be competitors. But assuming they could cooperate, I'd like to send one on a long tour of Vietnam, just cross that country, like using 2 months, send another to explore the islands of Indonesia. Maybe a third would learn some other languages. A fourth would spend more time mentoring. And the other five, I don't know, just like lock them in a closet somewhere.
So this is not about building an empire or anything. More leisure time is what you'd optimize for, or something like this.
Well, I don't consider it leisure time. I
Okay.
consider quote unquote working as more leisurely than traveling around. So traveling is hard, right? It's rewarding, but the real leisure is when you're sitting on your sofa writing, I would say.
I see. Uh, in your when you were 14 to your late 20s, you mentioned that that was the period of your life where learning had its highest returns. Could you speak more about like the nature of this learning curve here? How do you feel like you were learning differently in that period of your life compared to now?
Well, that's true for social science. Obviously,
Okay.
when I'm like 2, 3 years old, I'm learning a lot, but that's a different issue. But I think there's a point before which you just can't learn that much. So if I read the newspaper when I'm like age 8, I don't know how much it means to me. But definitely by ages 13, 14, it all means a lot. I really started like reading newspapers and things like that at age 10. And I absorbed a great deal, and it was all new, right? By definition. So at some point, truly new ideas are harder to find. And I would say by the time I hit my late 20s, it's much harder. And you see this even in music. So I think I discovered like James Brown. Maybe I was 30. That was a big deal for me. Uh, but it's hard to keep on discovering people of that import when you're 40. Like new ones are created. There's Nirvana, there's My Bloody Valentine, whatever. But you just can't like go back in time and find the next Beethoven because you already know the Beethovens. So I think for a lot of people, by the time they hit 30, there's certain thresholds they've attained in terms of learning.
What do you think are the benefits of reading the news versus not? I hear various people say that it maybe to counter the mainstream habit of reading a lot of news, that one should not read the news, and maybe they should just read quarterlies once every quarter or something like this. Or uh,
Well,
it
I
sounds
don't see
like
how you
yeah,
can stay away from the drama, right?
sure.
So you're doing, for me, some form of violence to yourself by not reading. But look, I know some people, they get very depressed when they read the news. I was speaking to a friend of my wife's the night before, and she says if she reads the news, it's emotionally too much for her. And I understand that. I'm not that way, but probably she shouldn't read the news. But if you can handle it, I don't know why you would read anything else in a way. Like if there were more news, I would read more. You can randomly ask GPT, like, what's up in Cambodia, and generate some new news. I think that's a good thing to do, actually.
Then how should one spread one's time? One could spend time reading things like wisdom texts or great books or philosophy or things like this compared to the news. Should one allocate most of their time to things like the news, or what should the ratio be of news to more evergreen sort of sources of information?
I don't know. My attitude was always I need to read all those things. And like if people don't read as fast as I do, or they face other constraints, they have young kids, whatever, you just have to do what interests you because there's higher compound returns when you stay involved through, these pretty selfish reasons that you're enjoying it. So that would, in general, be my advice is figure out what you're going to stick with.
I see. Uh, in terms of learning, you mentioned in one interview that you can always learn more math and statistics. This was sort of a pithy comment. I'm curious if you could unpack it more, like which fields does this apply to? If I'm going to entrepreneurship, should I learn math and statistics, or it will be useless for me? And maybe you're speaking more as an economist or academic in that respect.
Well, possibly useless for you. It depends what your business is.
Hmm.
But there's things, say in econometrics, that are new relative to when I studied the field. So something like differences and differences. I would try to learn by YouTube. It's not a thing I work on, but I want to learn it. It's quite important in economics, and I'll talk to people about it, and then I'll use YouTube. So I don't know if it's practical value for me, but I'm just curious, like, what are these people doing? And so I try to learn something about it. Uh, Math, I think I've hit a point where the marginal math I don't know is a bit hard, and I'm not really doing that. So, like, whatever I don't know in differential equations seems to me not worth it, and I don't think I'll ever learn it. But for stats, there's a lot more I could learn, and it would still be useful in some way.
I see. I see. What does it feel like to crack a cultural code? You talk about cultural codes and cracking them. Does it feel like passive osmosis, like you're sort of being socialized into a group? Is it sort of explicit thinking and you're sort of like a sociologist developing a theory? Is it something in between to do or something else entirely?
Well, you never really crack it, right? That's sort of like an inside joke to cracking the code.
Hmm.
You can crack an actual code, like Alan Turing did, but cultural codes, they always mystify you. You can ask better questions. You can understand something rather than nothing. You just walk away with some vivid impressions, and that's what you're hoping for. But you can do those things with some reading, some time, some travel. And I think the marginal returns to doing that are just very, very high. Like once I went to Yemen and I spent a week there. Still a total mystery to me. And at the time, like not one person could speak English. I spoke to no one. But still, I'm like, wow, I'm in Yemen. And I saw it. It felt like a very medieval place. The men all carried daggers. The women were all veiled. The men were all chewing, khat, that narcotic drug. I came away baffled, but like I know what I'm baffled about at least.
Yeah, I've traveled relatively little to Rome once and to Canada recently and throughout the States. Is there any way you could speak to me about the benefits of travel? I've asked this to many people. What am I missing by not having traveled extensively?
Well, it's the ultimate puzzle, right? You're trying to figure things out. You'll never succeed. You learn a lot of history. You understand current affairs much better if it's a relevant country. Certainly Canada and Rome would count as relevant. And it's just fun. I'm very interested in food. You get to eat these wonderful dishes. Uh, but I like to have a sense of history. And if you don't go places, I find it hard to really internalize like some narrative or vision as to whatever happened there. But you see Rome, then you read about the Roman Empire, and you've seen continuing bits of it. That's pretty amazing. It's a thrill for me.
What do you feel like the benefits of learning about history are for you?
I just want to know it. It's an end in and of itself to know what humans have done. Like for your business, it's not going to help you. And
Yeah,
if you're not interested, just don't do it. But humans are what are interesting, right? And the future, it only comes when it comes. That's like reading the news. And the past has infinite riches. So why not explore them? I guess is my attitude.
I see. I see. One could say like maybe it helps you predict political situations or something like this, or recognize the current political climate, or
I think it
do you
does
feel
a
like that has
little,
merit?
but like a little.
Yeah.
It mainly cautions you about over predicting, I would say, which is useful. But you can know a lot about the past and still not be good at predicting the future. Uh, but again, you just get a sense of where things came from, and the world becomes a bit more intelligible. And you're like, you feel greater comfort with it, or at least I do. And you're in Arizona now. Like, you can just fly to northern Mexico. It's got to be like less than an hour flight. It's gorgeous there. The food is incredible. You compare like Mexicans there to Mexicans in your state, what's different? Uh, it's very interesting to me. I flew to Hermosillo once, which has got to be pretty close to you. Some of the best food I've had in my whole life. And it was cheap. Like, why shouldn't I go to Hermosillo? And then when I read about northern Mexico in the news, I have these images. I don't
Hmm.
think it's for everyone, but I love it. I'm never going to stop until I have to.
I see. Okay, I'll consider it. What is your favorite cultural code?
Well, I've been to Mexico more than any other country. Some of
Mhm.
that is simply that it's close, but it is a long-standing love of mine. The sense of drama there, how many individual stories you interact with, the mix of sort of cheery and depressive. It's some of my favorite food. I like how the different regions vary. I find most of it is actually pretty safe, contrary to reputation. The weather I like, so it has many pluses for me. But I lived in Germany, I lived in New Zealand. Those have to be favorites. Uh, there are very few places I've gone, if any, where I'm just not interested. Probably, I can't think of anywhere, in fact. Even when I went to Braunschweig in West Germany way back when, which is ugly and dull, but it's like, okay, here's what a dull German city's like. And that was something too.
I see. I somewhat approach these questions from like a means to an end. I'm learning this to get this out of or something. And you talk about uh, having interests and curiosity and this sort of thing. I'm curious tracking your intellectual history from like your early teens and onward. Uh, the things that were interesting to you in your early teens, say, I don't know, economics or philosophy, are those subjects still as interesting to you today? Or do some of them, do you hit diminishing returns and no longer interested? And have you discovered new fields that are interesting to you?
Well, I'm still interested, but I would say there are diminishing returns. So as new economic ideas are developed, I'll be first in line to read them or hear them. But the pace has really slowed down, I think, since about 1990. So yes, that for me is much less interesting. Philosophy maybe has a bigger dilemma. I would say there's less progress in philosophy than economics. Uh, but again, I'm there, super eager. There's a lot of just refinements of things and pieces written and books written, for peer review, for promotion. It's not really that earth-shattering. And even a lot of philosophers will admit this. Things like Nozick, Rawls, Kripke, Quine were really phenomenal. I was very excited and interested. Parfit, of course. There'll be more to come, but right now it seems pretty slow. Maybe I'm just not seeing it or hearing about it, but I believe it's slow.
How do you relate to anthropology and sociology as fields?
I think they're great fields, but it's not always rewarding to read them. The best thing to do is to go out and do it, which for me is doing it by travel. So that's how I express my interest in those fields, is by doing them, not by reading them that much. They're fine to read. You learn things. They contain empirical knowledge. But again, better to do it yourself. Cook your own meal.
I see. Uh, you've said that you're a highly diversified public intellectual, that you don't like bet on single ideas. Uh, in a blog post about whose entire body of work is worth reading, you mentioned historians. Um, if they're relatively good at being historians, they're have a pretty high hit rate of having good bodies of work. Um, there's a sort of underlying analogy of uh, public intellectuals as investors in ideas. Uh, I'm going to share some, I guess, investing analogies, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts as to how they map onto public intellectuals. Are you down?
Yeah, of course.
Uh, are there high variance ideas, and what sort of ideas or fields are more high variance?
Well, anytime you make a big prediction, it's high variance, right? So if you're proven right, there's a big upside. If you're proven wrong, it is true people forget about it, but you still lost a chance at upside and you only get so many chances. So anything about the future, anything about tech, uh, any very specific political predictions, like, oh, like every president will be like Trump from now on, those are pretty high variance.
What are the various markets for ideas? Who's buying ideas? If public intellectuals are sort of serving them out, where does the demand come from?
Well, you can get tenure. That's common. You can write for media. You can write for Substack, which can be a lot of income. Uh, those are, you can have a podcast. Those are not necessarily your ideas, but it's you in some way. You can do consulting. You can work for a multilateral. You can advise and or work for a government. So there's a lot of different bidders, so to speak. Some of them
It,
don't interest me at all. Like I've never wanted to work for governments.
does the analogy of like startups and small business map on? If you want to be a very like successful intellectual, do you have to have a few startups and take high risk bets on a few companies and have those succeed, or can you
I
be a
don't think
long term?
so.
No,
I
okay.
think you can become an expert like in a thing. And there's some things they're always going to matter, like immigration or the Middle East, obvious list of stuff. And if you're just smart and work hard and do some sensible things, you can become pretty well known. You don't have to make some big bet like, oh, the government of Iran will collapse in 2 years. You can try that, but it's usually unwise. Like typically you don't actually know. And you can just be an expert, and that's
It,
fine. Like look at Justin Wolfers. Like I know he's made specific predictions, but he's mainly known for being an expert. Not that he said this one thing that turned out to be correct. And he's an expert about a bunch of things, and he's doing great.
uh, the public intellectuals that do take these high risk bets, do you think they're usually aware of it?
Well, I don't think they're doing it cynically,
Mhm.
typically. There may be some cases of that, but most are sincere, really believe it. I think they know what they're doing when they say it. But again, I don't think they're manipulating the system to try to get ahead. I think it's what they feel they ought to be saying. I just think they're often overconfident in their ability to be correct. But that's fine. Like other entrepreneurs are motivated by overconfidence. Adam Smith made that point. Maybe you are. That's what gets you to try things. The failure rate on these ventures is pretty high, and that's the way the world works.
How about me as like a consumer of ideas? Which fields ought I learn about if I want some like very evergreen fields that are going to be useful for me throughout my career?
Well, now it's AI. It has not been that in the past, but that will be important for the rest of my life and yours, and you'll have to know it no matter what you do. So I would say that. Uh, Depends who you are and what you're going to do. But I tell a lot of people that if you learn a lot about China, India, and Mexico, maybe Russia, you're really in pretty good shape. Like that's a lot of the world, and it will always be relevant. And you're always going to meet people from those places, probably work with them. It's just very good background for many, many things. Now, if you live somewhere else, it's going to differ. But at least India and China will not really differ. Mexico might differ.
And I've considered reading history books on China or Mexico or wherever, but I also understand that travel is qualitatively different. Uh,
Yeah, go to them. Don't read so much.
okay, yeah.
Like read a small number of books and then interrogate GPT about what you care about concerning those places. If you just read 30 books, like all these names of Chinese dynasties, like this, how many people really retain that? You know, maybe for some people it's great, but it's not a general recommendation. Just see a few different parts of China, India, try cooking some dishes or whatever your interest is. Try to connect with these countries through that interest. Maybe it's, cricket or something, India. It's a lot of ways you can do it.
I see. Uh, what is your relationship with Fernand Braudel's work?
I'm a big fan of it. I read a lot of it when I was quite young. It had a big influence on me. The 3-volume Structures of Material Life I found more intelligible than the Mediterranean set. Also, his book, The Identity of France, I thought was very good. So I'm a huge fan.
I've been reading various like sociological ethnographic books, and maybe in that vein, but some more modern ones too. Are there when will I face diminishing returns for this? And when should I go and travel and learn about different places? Or is reading books? I've been reading a book that's sort of a community studies book and about a small rural town. Um, when
I
should
think with
I drop the
history,
book and travel?
there are no diminishing returns,
Mhm.
but you can travel and take the book on the trip. So I would just say do both. They'll
Okay.
enhance each other. There's
Uh,
downtime when you travel, like books and travel are definitely complements. I very often get more reading done on a trip than at home. And people can't really like bug you on the trip so well.
There's a modern phenomena, especially of med students and also language learners using like flashcard apps, like Anki. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
you're familiar. What do you think
I've
about
heard about them. I've never
these?
used them.
Do you have any first impressions or off the cuff takes on
I
the
suspect the
phenomena?
good ones are quite good and useful. You know, spaced repetition as a mode of learning, there's good evidence for that. Like, you know, when I was like younger and learning German and Spanish, I did that without apps, of course,
Sure.
using things like file cards, and I found that useful. So if we can do it in a higher tech way, it's probably still useful.
Um, you daily post assorted links. How this podcast adjacently first came about was me asking if there was a Straussian reading of your assorted links. Is there some specific order that you put specific links in? Is there some esoteric reading of the links? Hints are fine too.
Well, I like it when there's one link that comes and the one after it is kind of commentary on the link before. And that definitely happens, and I'm aware of it, and I giggle. But I don't put much effort into like rearranging the order. The order is typically the order they were sent to me or I found them. And I might sometimes switch the order of one or two just to get the giggle. But mostly it's arising spontaneously. So I'm aware of it, but I'm not doing very much to manipulate it.
I see. It's not like the last link is something you always think is completely incorrect or wherever.
No,
There's
not
no
at all.
secret
It's
code.
really the order in which they come to me.
If you're interested in so many things, why not mysticism?
Well, I am very interested in mysticism. I don't practice it because I guess I don't believe in it. But things like the Rosicrucians, Isaac Newton, Masonic symbolism, uh, all that would be areas where, you know, I would read a fair amount. I would go visit mystic sites. It's a somewhat loose concept, but I definitely am interested in that. But like, what's mysticism versus religion? Some fine distinctions there. I would just say I'm interested in all of it. And I'm not too concerned with drawing the lines any one specific way.
It, to push you further, there's like the interest in the history of it, the sociology of it, and this sort of thing. Yeah. How about the practical side? Does that interest you much, or is it
No,
no, no?
if I thought it were true, I'm not sure I'd be interested in anything else. But I don't think it's true. And even if it is true, I don't know how I would make progress. There's so many mystical claims, like, oh, is there ESP? Does meditation bring you to this final state of whatever? Or there's this, there's that. Just as an outsider, you approach this, uh, you've no way of knowing where the actual gold is. So sort of give up on it.
I see. I see. Why aren't there any widespread monastic institutions in like modern day America?
Well, are we sure there are not? Universities are in some ways monastic. Uh, there are people who live as monks in the US. It's probably not very many. There's nunneries. I know they're shrinking. It wouldn't surprise me if some of these made a comeback. I guess I expect they will.
Do you have any thoughts on what conditions of a country or civilization create such a institution?
Well, when you're not sure how else you can make a living, that's a big determinant. So medieval times, which are very insecure, of course, the idea that you're a monk, you're a nun, you're taken care of, I think it's very appealing. And I think on average, a lot of the other people you could speak with were very intelligent, which may not have been the case in your village. Uh, Church doctrine is more interesting than a lot of what you would have picked up outside of the church. Uh, it's probably what I would have done in those times had I been born then.
Do you think they're a sort of talent magnet?
At times they are, medieval times, definitely. Now, are they a talent magnet? You know, in 1880, I would think very likely not. Now, Franz Liszt spends his last years, he dies in 1886, you know, basically in a monastery as a monk, still doing music, studying Catholic doctrine, becoming quite conservative. He was still talented, but it really depends on the time.
What did you get out of reading Stalin's Library? I think you recommended it to Dorkesh per an interview at, I think, the Progress Studies conference.
Well, Stalin was more intellectual than I had thought, and it upgraded my sense of how much influence books have. If they influence even Stalin, so, okay. Now, he had bad influences for the most part, but still, books reach so many people, and it's an argument in favor of writing books.
Sure. Um, in what are your thoughts, if any, on Mortimer J. Adler's work?
You mean like his book, How to Read a Book?
Yeah, How to Read a Book. I think he was affiliated with uh, the production of the encyclopedia in some way.
Yeah, a book on Aristotle.
Yeah, book on
It seems
Aristotle.
to me he was very useful in getting people interested in philosophy, and that's great. But I read some when I was young and they bored me, but they're not for me. But it's very good that they're there.
He writes a lot about the great books, and I think he had some involvement in the movement. I'm curious, the books that are like commonly referred to as great books, what do you think the correlation is with them actually being great and uh, interesting and having deep content?
Very, very high. So if you mean the literal great book series, there's a lot that's missing, but everything in there, as far as I can remember, is a hit, like every single one. Now, the science books, that's trickier, like Huygens. Do you need to read him? Like, should that be in there? I guess I wouldn't put it in there. I'd put in something else, that's more of a text. But man, I think they had great taste, and like everyone's a home run.
Are there any
No exceptions that I can think of.
particular books that you would think are great? There might be too many to name, or maybe there are a few that aren't included in the list.
I'm trying, Dickens' Bleak House is not in there. And that to me is very, very great. That would be an example of something that's missing.
Uh, in a
A lot more
yeah,
economics, right?
sure.
Hayek. So now Hayek, his greatest works were articles. So, okay, you wouldn't put him in great books. Uh, but there's plenty. Is John Maynard Keynes in there? I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
I see. Uh, Dwark Cash, in his first podcast interview with you, you said that you think there was something like a 70% chance of a nuclear bomb going off in his lifetime. I'm a similar age as Dwark Cash. I'm
Yeah.
curious if you would still stand by that prediction.
Maybe I would up it a tiny amount because like war in Ukraine is not over. India, Pakistan have had some dust ups. Those are not major revisions compared to how things were when I said that. But if I'm going to put the number up or down, I'd put it up a slight amount. But
Do you
basically
think, yeah.
stick in the same range.
Should I act accordingly? Should I like maybe avoid living in San Francisco during my lifetime or a major
No, they're
US
not going to
city
bomb
or
you.
no?
I think
Okay.
US, you're as safe as you're going to get. You might avoid the Korean Peninsula or India, Pakistan. Even then, I'm not sure it should change your decisions. But US is a pretty protected place to be.
Sure. Do you think that stands on a larger scale, like in terms of thinking about my career path and my general life, and geopolitics and how that affects that? Is living in the U.S. a pretty safe bet, or should I ditch it
It's
to
the
some
safest
Southeast
bet.
Asian community?
If we fall
Yeah. Okay.
apart, a lot of the rest of the world goes down with us. Like maybe you should buy more gold than you would have been planning on doing,
Mhm.
or whatever is the relevant hedge at that point in time. Like I would do that. I'm thinking of buying more gold myself. But the younger you are, the more sense it makes. The older you are, the more you're just like, whatever. But look into hedges. But again, let's say Iran geared up with non-nuclear missiles and had enough of them that they could overwhelm Israeli air defenses, and they start an attack on Tel Aviv, and Israel responds by nuking a city in Iran, which is a terrible event, most of all for the people who die. It might be a financial crisis, but it's not really going to affect you that much.
There are people who, when upset with the administration. Maybe it's just hearsay, but travel to Canada and move to Canada. Do you think, how do you think Canada stands in terms of safety and robustness over my lifetime compared to the US?
No, basically the same. We underwrite them. It's a nice country. Living there is very good. I don't like the cold. I love the food. I wouldn't move there. The people who went, I think, are fools and all kind of cowards in a way. But look, good riddance, they can come back anytime they want. And in the meantime, I think they'll just look like fools.
Do you have any heuristics or tips for finding good books? For example, Dorkesh says the further reading on the Wikipedia page is usually pretty high quality, or I've found benefit from reading books from authors I like one book of, and then maybe there's another book that's less highly reviewed. Uh, Reading the Goodreads pages of people I find interesting has usually been interesting. Do you have any heuristics like this that you use?
None of those work for me, but I'm not trying to talk you out of them.
Okay.
One thing I recommend to everyone, that Harold Bloom book, The Western Canon. He lists what he thinks is the Western canon and some of the non-Western canon in the back. Almost all of those are great reads. They're not all easy. And then I'm often doing what I call reading in clusters. I'm not trying to pick out the best book. I want to learn about something. And to learn about that thing, like now I'm reading about South African penal system a bit. I'll just read more books on that topic. I'm sure they're not the best books, but it's like podcast prep, and that's what I'm going to do. So my reading is more and more looking like that. And then there's just what people send me, review copies. Like I got 3 or 4 today, and I'll look at them just out of serendipity. And some of it I might read. Who knows what they are? Here's one in front of me. It's called 7 Decades, How We Evolved to Live Longer. I'll try it. Why not?
What is your relationship with review copies? I have never received one, and I maybe get a little snippet of people receiving them through um, people endorsing a book on the front. What is your relationship when you receive a review copy? Do you think it's a better book on average? Do you feel a particular obligation when you receive one? What is your relationship with that?
A lot of them are good. I look at every one. I don't know if I'm obliged, but I want to do it anyway. So yeah, I'll definitely look at it. Even if I get 7 or 8 in a day, I'll look at them all. Uh, I probably won't read them all, but I'm very glad to get them. And I think that system works pretty well. It certainly works well for me.
I see. This is a different topic in terms of I'm in college, and you talk about college providing context for people growing up. What particular context do people maybe who spend more time on the internet or don't attend every class? What do they miss out on? Is it skills at being social or romantic relationships, or what sort of context do people miss out on?
Well, all of that. The first thing college does is it takes you away from a lot of bad contexts.
Okay.
Violence, some working class norms, poverty. You're removed from it. That's a huge gain right there. Like the context you don't get. Dating, relationships, you get to learn like new and different kinds of jerks, often from your professors. That's important. Different personality types. You learn bureaucracy in a school because you have to deal with it. You sort of learn how competitive you are, how much patience you have, what you enjoy. You learn a lot about yourself. I don't know if it's an efficient system, but it's proven surprisingly hard to beat.
Yeah, I am in college. I have a year and a half left of my computer science degree. I have sometimes struggled every semester. Do I want to continue with this degree? Do I want to work on personal projects? How should I relate to this? Should I get the degree because it looks very good on my LinkedIn that I can complete something? Should there be some margin by which, if my business succeeds, I go work on that full time? What should my relationship with uh,
Well,
finishing
I don't
college
know
be?
you. My guess is you should get the degree. If you had some startup idea and felt if I don't do it now, someone else will take it, and this is like the idea of my lifetime, then you might stop. But that's rarely the case. So probably you should finish. And whatever you want to do with entrepreneurship, you can just do, and you'll be a bit wiser and know a bit more, and you won't be at any disadvantage. It's
I
not like
see.
you're 40, right? So probably just
Yeah,
finish. Chance you'll meet your partner, I wouldn't say it's high, but it's not trivial in that last year and a half. And you're more orient as you're leaving, you think a bit like, what am I going to take with me? And potential partners, they're more ready to like truly pair off. So that chance is rising. Like, why flush that down the toilet?
Do you think there's any significant difference with the modern day Ivy League universities? And I go to like a public school, like Arizona State University. Is there a significant context that I'm missing out on?
Well, I think your school is less corrupt than theirs. On net, that's good for you. But yes, you are missing out on some context by not seeing the corruption,
I see.
intellectual corruption and conformity and self-righteousness and political correctness and all of that. My sense, I've never visited your school, but I hear from many people you're much better than average and more entrepreneurial as a school. I'm pretty sure it's true. And you get that. It's great. Enjoy it.
What do you think, my generation, the Zoomers, what mistakes do you expect us to make?
I don't think in terms of generations very much, but it's
Mhm.
striking to me the data on the number of young people who don't seem to be trying to have sex. And that just seems to me like a huge mistake. I'm not saying do it indiscriminately, don't do it irresponsibly, don't do it without whatever measures of safety are appropriate. But man, it's incredible. I never would have expected that. It's like this earlier generation fought for some kind of sexual revolution, which like admittedly went too far, and now you've just all lost interest. I was speaking to a person, male, young, super smart, good looking, and he just said like he doesn't date. I don't understand that. Total mystery to me, and I think it's a mistake.
Do you think dating is something one does is instrumentally valuable, or is it more towards like wanting to have a life partner that you
Both.
recommend that both?
It
Yeah.
just seems like it should be obvious. You should be wanting to try to do it. I'm not saying it's easy, but like it's not so hard that it will just thwart you. You can do it, but something's gone wrong. And it's like the man and the women both have their own version of the problem. And it's this massive coordination failure. And yes, I think it's a big mistake. All parties involved, or rather not involved, would be a better way to put it.
See, what advantages do you think young people will have?
Well, they're smarter. I think their values are in general quite good compared to earlier generations. They have incredible opportunities. They grow up in a world where you can be much more in touch with other cultures and countries. You can turn that into a big plus if you want to. Those are some pretty big, advantages. And they're real. I'm not one of these, oh, the new generation is all screwed up. I worry mental health problems are high and rising. That's my biggest worry. But I think there's a lot of big pluses for young people as well.
A young person looking forward to the future with a career path of wanting to have a lot of free time and maybe luxury time and this sort of thing. What current professions or career paths would serve that goal most?
It depends what else you care about. I mean, you can just be a high school teacher and you're home by 4 p.m. and you have the summers free. It's not really something I'd advise, but if you just want free time, different bureaucracies, you could try to get some money pretty early and do some kind of Dave Ramsey thing with compound returns. I don't know. I don't know how well that works. I don't advise people to do it. I think find something you really enjoy and work a lot is typically what I would advise.
I see. I see. Uh, how many interesting emails do you receive a day? Like, what is the order of magnitude? Is it single digit? Is it hundreds? In what range does the amount of like interesting emails in the sense that they're novel? Maybe you haven't seen them before. And then maybe there's another type of email which is just like practically relevant.
I would guess it's over 100 a day, at least a weekday, somewhat lower on like a Sunday, but not 200. Just a guesstimate. That's quite a few. I feel I have great information flows, but it can be a little hard to deal with. I don't want it to stop. I'm very happy about it, but it's a lot, right?
Yeah, yeah. How does email compare to other information flows you have, like Twitter or your RSS feed or WhatsApp groups or uh, eh,
My RSS feed has died,
yeah,
which is sad, but it's just true. I'm in a lot of very good WhatsApp groups. Those are typically people I know, and I'll get, any hour, probably 100 messages. I don't know. It's a lot. You said emails, but you add it all up, it's even more.
sure.
And those are often interesting. I'm a tiny bit on Signal. Twitter, I scroll a lot. Uh, yeah, a lot of stuff coming at me.
Any online forums or mostly
No, my
Twitter
own
and
blog
your phone
is
blog?
like
Yeah,
my online forum, but no other one.
yeah, yeah. How do you balance uh, like responding to messages versus consuming messages? Are you mostly do you mostly produce things, or do you have a high baseline for that, or is there a whole world of Tyler Cowen of just consuming things like books and other information? Uh, and what is like the ratio of the two, the public Tyler Cowen of producing content versus your personal consumption habits?
Well, I'm not sure I followed what you're really getting at.
Yeah,
I would say I read and listen to a lot that I never write about,
yeah,
if that's what you're asking. Now, if you're asking, do I respond to emails? Yes, almost always. Uh, if you ask, am I like Derek Parfit, who writes these long private letters that are awesomely interesting but never come out? The answer is no. Um, if I'm going to do something interesting, I try to turn it into a public output rather than just be something private.
I see. Yeah. Would
So
you
if you read my private correspondence, like you'd find it a bit interesting, but not really that much.
I see. There isn't some Tyler Cowen's letters book that will be transformative that will be published after your lifetime or something like this.
No,
It
you'd
sounds
like
like.
understand my workflow better. You'd pick up a few points, but it wouldn't really be that interesting after a while.
I see. Um, how do you read so fast? Did you always read so fast?
Yeah, I was born that way. I think I'm a hyperlexic, which is a technical term, and I never learned how to read fast. And it's a rare thing, but I've met other people who have it, and it's a big advantage if you have it.
Is there any snippet into what it feels like when do you like sub vocalize? Some people like read words out loud. Do you just look at a page and you understand the page? What does it feel like to be a hyperlexic?
I don't know how it is for the other hyperlexics. I know a single digit number of them, right? Which is some, but not that many. And you don't vocalize much, if at all. I believe that's true. And you can read more in chunks, and you can more easily spot what you don't need to read as well. Like, oh, this page, nothing on it for me. Let's continue. You can do that quite well. So you read less. It's a mistake, I think, to call it skimming. Like you're just seeing you don't need to read that page. It's some blah, blah, blah that you've already read somewhere else. And the more you read, the more you spot this. It's sad in a way, but it's true.
And this
So
is
you can
applied
focus
to
on what
yeah.
you really ought to be reading.
Does it, what do you think, does it come from some like better understanding of the world, some like uh you're better at processing information, some sort of intelligence? uh where do you think the fast ability to read comes from, if there was some mechanistic angle to think about it?
Well, I think the genetic component is something to do with how quickly you can turn visual inputs into understanding that you're just born with or not. And you probably have high visual acuity. So, like if I go to a bookshelf and I'm trying to spot the title of a book, I
Mhm.
found I'm really much better than that than most other people, just like finding the book on the shelf. If there was some kind of game show where that's what you did, I would do very well. Um, yeah, mostly innate slash genetic, whatever. I don't think it's well understood.
Do you think it's had strong benefits for your career?
Yeah, it's what made my career. Not, I mean, that's an understatement. Uh, Everything I do would not be possible without it. So if I can read 5 or 10x more quickly than someone who's comparably well educated or similar IQ, it's just a huge advantage. and they're not really going to make up for it. And
It
since I can read fast, my rate of return for reading more is also high. So I'm reading faster and I'm reading more, and then that accumulates. And it's just very hard for people to catch up to that. It's great.
it feels like there should be some psychometric for this, like IQ or something. It's if it's quite high stakes in sense of making your career, uh, shouldn't it be more studied?
Probably. Now there's sufficiently few people. Like A, it's hard to study.
Okay,
Uh, and B, like you could study it. I don't know how you could help people. Maybe you could help them with it. But if the main lesson is that it's genetic, I'm not sure what you can then do.
fair. Um, how do you relate to? I've heard people comment on the robustness of like um, personality psychology literature, and despite that, I still use like um, things like agreeableness and conscientiousness and openness and like thinking about other people. Um, how do you relate to these sort of adjectives and descriptors? Do you feel like they have some sort of scientific oomph, or are they mostly just good at capturing the way other people operate?
No, I think they have some meaning, and it's very useful when there's another person you can share the terms with. Maybe that's more useful than applying them solo in your imaginings. So it's a communications language. But that said, a lot of it's context dependent. So there's people who will neglect tasks at work because they have to get home to feed the cat. Now, is that conscientiousness or is that the opposite of conscientiousness? There's no point in arguing the term, but you can see it's a bit of both. And I think much of the world is like feeding your cat but not finishing your task at work.
I see. There's a book you posted on your blog once, and that I read through some of Metzler's philosophy between the lines.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
it's a great book. And
yeah,
I like him. I know him. I know him and his wife.
he draws a dichotomy between historicism, which talks about history being conditioned, um, knowledge is sort of dependent on the culture, sort of postmodern, and then also like uh, philosophic rationalism, which gives a sense of there are like timeless truths that are present throughout history. Um, could you give the steelman for both of these? Could you uh, give the most convincing argument for either one of these views?
I don't know. I'm not sure what's really at stake.
Yeah.
As an economist, when I hear a contrast like that, I like to turn it into a question about an empirical variable. Like,
Okay.
what's the empirical variable that one view is estimating one way and the other view is estimating another way? And then I feel we might make progress. And expressed in terms of the generalities, it's just not really how I think. So I like the idea that people talk about these big things in the abstract, but
Mhm.
I don't make progress with it that way.
I see. Uh, the final few questions I have are around mentorship. You have a book around mentorship coming out, and I know you'd
Well,
like to
not
keep
come. It's my new book. I'm writing it. I mean, it will come out, but it's not finished. There's no publisher. But yes, that's my new topic.
uh, I'll feel free to be very brief in your answers, depending on how you feel. But what has been in your life the most common source of finding mentors? Is it through like an introduction from a friend, through say cold outreach to someone? Is it through um, an institution of sorts, through conferences? If you reflect on mentors or just whatever comes to mind, where have you found the most useful mentors?
A lot of it is random through people I know. Only small conferences have ever been useful to me, like Liberty Fund conferences have been great for that. But big events with hundreds are worthless. I've never done cold outreach, but in general, I recommend it. I think it's good. I've just circulated a lot, traveled a lot, bumped into a lot of people. There'll be a chapter in the book, like the mentors in my life, and the chapter is growing a bit unwieldy because there's so many of them, and I don't want to not give credit to anyone. Maybe the chapter will be a bit too long. but I do want to cover the important ones. And there's so many, including in the arts, in music, in philosophy, obviously in economics, management, all sorts of things. I'm one of the luckiest people I know for mentors, but I don't think it can be entirely luck. I feel there's something about me that has attracted mentors because it's never been like cold approach sort of thing from me. It's just happened.
Hmm. A segue from this is you mentioned meeting Brian Kaplan when you were quite young.
Well,
And
he was quite young. I was like 30, I'm guessing,
okay, interesting.
maybe a little younger. That's not quite young anymore. It's younger than I am now.
Sure. Do you have a sense of how many people like him you've sort of tracked throughout your life and have been friends with, and maybe you saw they were talented at one point and they're still talented, or have most talented people in your life just popped up at one point and you weren't aware of them when you were, say, in undergrad?
Well, quite a large number, really a large number. And very often they have found me. Brian's a great example of that. Alex Tabarrok would be another, Robin Hanson, many, many. And it's a great blessing to have that because you learn from those people. You also feel you're giving something back to the world. And it's fun. You know, Brian and I will probably have lunch tomorrow and just have a great time joking about whatever. So yeah, it's awesome.
And
People seem
most of them
to do
just pop
more
out rather
like it's
than.
friendship, but there's mentoring embedded
Mhm.
forever. It's great.
And to clarify, they weren't people you tracked throughout your life, and most of them were people that spontaneously you sort of came across. And
I met Brian at some Institute for Humane Studies thing.
yeah.
He came up to me. He read something I wrote. He like wrote a rebuttal saying how wrong I was. Uh, and the piece he wrote in response was quite good. So I thought I should stay in touch with this guy, and I just liked him. And he and I still go for lunch together.
In conversation with Dorkesh Patel, you say mentors only teach you a few things, but those things are so important. They give you a glimpse of what can be, and you're oddly blind to that, even if you're very, very smart. The example you give is a mentor that taught you you could read as many books as possible. Um, are there any other, like one or two things of like ways mentors expanded your world?
Well, there's so many examples. So say in the arts, there's a guy I learned a lot from. His name was, well, it still is Joe Levine. Just how well you can understand an artwork was one thing I picked up from him. That's quite an intangible thing, but something clicks and it's like, oh, you can really make progress in this area. It's trivial in a way to describe it, but when you see it in a vivid manner, manifested through an actual human, it has this immense power. Music, like, really anything that I'm at all connected with, like how to understand a basketball game, learned things about that, like from my friend Kevin Greer. You can just go on and on about this.
It You have a fondness of basketball, as I understand it. This is a little segue. And
NBA, not basketball. Big difference here, but yes,
NBA, and you do play basketball to in your free time a little bit,
I
do you
played
not? Yeah.
today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think societally? How do you think of sports as like an institution, and what are like the positive externalities and the negative externalities?
Well, they're fun. I think they bring people together. Uh, Mostly positive. I worry about the current trend with all this sports gambling. I think that's
Hmm.
quite negative.
Yeah.
I don't know how to, I mean, there's always been sports gambling. It seems much worse. I don't know how to get back to where we were, but I would like to do that. Uh, are there like men who just watch football on TV, neglect their families? I'm sure. Like you can't say there aren't these negative sides, but it's mostly voluntary and a great American business sector, and it helps to define cities, and it's great.
I see. What are to get back to um, the final question on mentees? What common mistakes do people make as mentees?
One good way to be a mentee is just to show your potential mentor that you can benefit them too. If you just come to them screaming for help, you scare them away. It doesn't actually sound that appealing to them. So the idea of gains from trade is essential to most human relationships, and it's true with mentors and mentees as well. I think that's the most important point.
I see. Um, Great. Well, I encourage people to check out this book on mentorship when it comes out. I am
It'll just
very
be called
interested in
Mentors. I don't want some
mentors.
long subtitle. I've grown to
Okay.
hate those. I hope they let me keep a one-word title. 7 letters, Mentors, nothing
Yeah,
more. Like what else can you say that isn't just bullshit, right?
sure,
Search
sure.
engine optimization on Amazon or something. Mentors, that's what it's about.
Yeah, and it sounds like, and my impression of this is mentors being valuable to me in my life, that um, such a thing is pretty high leverage, even given AI and the speed with
Especially
one
given
can.
AI. Your
Yeah.
mentors will be all the more important. Like every open job, there'll be thousands of perfectly written application letters, and who can recommend you, vouch for you, will matter more than ever before. It's already the case, I would say, but certainly all the more so a few years from now.
Yes, this makes sense. To end things up, where can people reach you or find you after this podcast?
Well, they can Google my name, Tyler Cowen. My podcast is called Conversations with Tyler. The blog is called Marginal Revolution. On Twitter, I'm at Tyler Cowen. I have a homepage that's badly out of date and in chaos, but it's there. Those are some places you could start. I have an online education site called Marginal Revolution University, and I have a whole bunch of books on Amazon.